simply selected that it is, for example, the technician A1 who realized it has made 2H45 2 hours 45, for example. So 2H45 here is automatically converted to time here below. For example, machine reset, I will simply validate, and when I go to the history database, the information entered in the form was actually saved here. So as you can see here, the information, all information entered has been saved here. The information I have, just fill in the form on the other side, and when I validate, in fact, also, for example, I modify it here. You saw earlier we were at 00129. Now we're actually at 00130. So the number of the work order has been reset automatically when we close our work order. So I will test again in front of you. You will see now if I validate here, the next number will be 00131, in fact. So it's going to re-increment. So our machine has been put back into service. I validate, see, automatically. The number has changed to 00131, in fact. So the number has been reinstated and our number 00130 has been entered into the history database here. In fact, here is the number of the work order, in fact. So it allows us to have traceability, and so on the intervention form. On the field intervention form, the technicians will have to fill in the work order number. These cards can be filed and organized in a file cabinet. And by in relation to the subsequent work number, we can search for a specific form and verify some information. In fact, if you want to consult again some information on the form, so that was for preventive maintenance, actually. So how do you close the preventive maintenance work orders? So you can either activate the form by clicking here or by active the same form by clicking on one of the cells materializing the date or the range of our maintenance preventive. In fact, so that was for the closing of work order. A small precision when closing our order of work on these two informations which are automatically modified done. So there is the work order number, which is modified as I introduced you earlier, but also the date. The date before realization, which actually changes, so when we close our date of realization, when we go to validate will become the date before the realization. This will allow us to recalculate the next maintenance operation in relation to this date. So I'll take an example. If, for example, assuming that our operation was carried out February 21st, 2025, for example, we have filled in our comment, we have validated our pointing, for example also. When I go to validate, you will see that instead of the 22nd of March 2023, it will be the 21st of February 2025. Who will be inscribed to this place, in fact. So the next date that will be in our green column here will automatically calculate in relation to this closing date of the operation. In fact, so here, I will validate You have seen here and now the 51st of February 2025 and what allows to recalculate. In relation to on this date, the next date of realization, which will now be the 21st of February 2026, in fact. So that's a little additional information. So there I presented you how to close the work order when there is only one technician who carried out the operation. I will present you now. I will show you how to close the work order when there are several technicians who actually perform the operation. So eventually we click on our form. We select our date of the day, and if little information, if inadvertently trying to close the form without entering the values, an ERROR message will appear and makes a message that appears asking us to inform all of our elements of our information, in fact, of maintenance. So I selected the date, I mentioned a comment, and so if there are several technicians, so we are not in the frame, there is only one technician, for example. Click on calculator here. There is the second FORM that appears is, for example, choose the technician, the first technician who made this. Technician A1, the second technician, A to the third technician 5, 2, technician 8. The first one, for example, 1 hour 15, the second 2 hours 15, the third 3 hours 15, and the fourth 4 hours 15 minutes. So here it is already set up. We can actually inform maximum 10 technicians. So the 10 technicians will be informed here and also inform their point in hour and minute. In fact, for the operation now, it is in fact. And so when I finished filling in the elements, I simply clicked on save. All this data is sent to this first form, and here you see, there is a total time that appears, in fact. And so if I finish filling in all these elements, from the commentary here, fill in the whole score here. I have validated that appears here, and I have simply click on save. And here too. So we have our work order, which is modified our date of realization, that is modified as I presented previously. But if we go into the history, we look at our last work order, so the 00133 that we have just cultivated at the moment. You see here we have the first technician, we have his pointing, which is here. We have the second one, we have its point, which is there. We have the third, we have this point, which is there. We have the fourth, we have this score, which is so on in fact. And here we have the total time, and here we have the year actually in relation to the year of our closing date of the operation. So the year is a data that we will use ultimately in the indicators, in fact, for to be able to filter our indicator data. In fact, so that was for the closing of work order with several technicians, that in this is simple. We select, we validate, we click on our form, we refer our different technicians. We also validate, we arrive here, we return here defines. Select the end state of closing. We register and everything is done. And on this form a small clarification. Here you have a button that allows you to directly access to the YouTube tutorial, in fact of this file in fact. So I will put here, a link the tutorial on YouTube, and I attach a link directly to the form. In fact, so when you click on this button of the form, you arrive directly on the YouTube tutorial. It would allow some people, in case of difficulties of use of the file, to have the visual in fact. The video tutorial directly also, quickly. So there, I've just shown you our work hours closing form, and now I'm going to show you actually, our history consultation form, in done. So when we click on this button we have our form that appears, which allows us to consult our history of operations of preventive maintenance that has been carried out. And so it allows us to interrupt our historical database, in fact without to come and control, or play on the filters here in fact. So we can also activate it from here, our history form. So, we have our historical formula of interventions that appears. Here in the top part we have of filters. You can either select a date and visualize all the operations that were realized on the famous date in question. When selecting one of the operations and the information that is repatriated here in fact, so we have the information. This information here, therefore, of the planning which are repatriated, and all in green, here underneath. We have the balance sheet of the activity in fact, that has been filled in. Well, for example, take one of the operations that we have just to inform later. For example, for this operation you see here, the one that complicated everything per hour with 4 technicians. So we have the date of realization action taken, anomaly found and treated eventually, the anomaly to be treated later. The state of the machine makes the intervention. On has the name of Technician 1, Technician 2 and so on. In fact, the list of different techniques that have achieved the operation with the total global time, in fact, and here this number is the line number in our historical database, in which the data of this operation in fact. So here we can play on the filters. It is possible to select a date on the filter also appears here. Consult the history. We have here other data that allows us to sort. So to sort on in relation to the DAT, in relation to the number level of machine, and so on in fact also. So in the first part, here we have several filters. Simply select the filter you want to play with. For example, I have take the number, and if I come now in the list here, I have the machine number that actually appears. So there I took machine number, I will select date. This machine is much for me. Here I have all the operations that have been performed on this machine, in fact, and so on. So that was for the part, so I'm going to present you now the settings part, tab of our application in fact. So in the settings section, in column A, here at Ligin 5. The 5 is the number of days of scheduled delay in fact. So I present to you the 5 as the number of days the declaring of our planning, so the number of days that appear before our date of the...
A word can change your life. The word is discipline. Imagine if you can get up every morning and finish all the work as planned. What would your life be like if you could beat alchemy and keep the confusion away and move forward in the path of your dreams? How to Be Disciplined by Sheldon Howe. That's exactly the roadmap, which will teach you to master time, to weaponize attention and defeat procreation forever. But be careful. This book will not only give job tips, it will change you from within. One of the main ideas. The first door of discipline is eternal, the beginning of the war. Imagine you are standing at the foot of a huge mountain. The top is covered in fog, but your heart knows that your dream is at that top. Your success, your future. But the road to climb is not straight. Stones, steep canyons on the way, and the biggest enemy is your own alchemy, restlessness, and messy mind. The only question is, can you get up? That mountain is actually discipline. Sheldon Howe said in his book, discipline is invisible bridge between who you are and who you want to be. That is, discipline is the invisible bridge that dreams you from your present will take to the destination. But how is this discipline created? Where to start? Today's story is about that. We all know what we should do. Get up early in the morning. Work plans should be followed. Keep your attention. But even after knowing, I don't. Why? Because the human brain always wants instant happiness. I want joy now. I want comfort now. The brain does not want to wait for long-term gains. This is where the war of discipline was born. Discipline is not about hurting yourself, but about building the present for your future. It is a form of self-control, where you have to win small battles with yourself every day. 1944 was a terrible time of World War II. A young American soldier is only 20 years old, preparing to land on Normandy Beach in France. Roaring cannons around our warplanes across the sky. Fear in his hands, shaking eyes. But I have to keep one thing in mind. If I don't win the fear, my companions will die. He doesn't know if he will survive, but discipline is forcing him to move forward. Because discipline on the battlefield is the only difference between life and death. Today we not on the battlefield, but our wars happen differently every day. Even if the alarm goes off in the morning, don't get up. Leaving work despite deadlines or wasting time scrolling through mobile. These are wars of their own will. The first step in discipline is to clarify the purpose. If you don't know why you are walking this path, you will give up at the first hurdle. A young name from the 1960s is Elon Musk. Everyone called him a crazy scientist because he always said one thing: one day I will send people to Mars. It was this clear goal of his that pulled him away, though strange until SpaceX was created. If Musk's goal was unclear, he might have stopped after the first failure. But the goal was clear, so discipline kept him in check. We do alchemy because the brain wants dopamine. If you open your phone and watch the video now, the brain gets a reward. But long-term tasks, such as learning new skills or saving money, don't give instant rewards. Discipline means retraining one's brain, learning to enjoy joy late. The biggest question in your life: why should I do it? Why I feel get up? Why should I leave the phone off and read? Why should I save? When the answer is clear, discipline is easy. Viktor Frankl, who returned from the Nazi concentration camp, alive, said, "Whose purpose in life is clear, he can endure any hardship." Frankl's own survival power came from his dream of seeing his wife once more. Discipline doesn't come overnight. Start with small habits, like getting up 5 minutes early every day. Drink a glass of water every morning after waking up. Read books for 10 minutes every day. Small wins get brain rewards, and slow gradually discipline becomes a normal habit. Imagine an old man lying in a hospital bed. He looks at his life and thinks, if I hadn't wasted my time, if I had fulfilled that dream, don't regret it. Discipline means the ability to avoid future regrets. The first key to opening the door to discipline is purpose. If once you know why you are doing it, the next step is time control. Because time is the real currency of your life. The main idea is to mastering time. The second pillar of discipline: we time always neglect. I think I will do it tomorrow. We'll start next week. But the truth is that time does not stop for anyone. Did you know that every minute when you are in doubt, someone on the other side of the world is taking another step towards his dream? Sheldon Howe wrote in one place, "Time management is easy about controlling the clock. It's about controlling your choices, i.e. controlling time does not mean controlling the clock, but controlling our decisions. Here we will learn how to master time and strengthen discipline. We often say, we don't get time, but there is really no time or time, but we don't know where it is cost to scroll the phone, and 2 hours pass unknowingly. Replying to trivial messages destroys the focus of work. Many people start the day messily, without making a job list. As a result, his work is not finished. The reason for losing time is subconscious choice. We don't understand how small confusions swallow a day. A young scientist of the 20th century, named Carl Sagan. The universe fascinated him from childhood, but when he came to the university, he realized that if he did not use the time properly, his dream would be elusive reply to an email, or organize a desk, or make an important phone call. These small tasks increase stress as they accumulate. Doing so immediately lightens the brain and prepares for big tasks. World-famous horror writer Stephen King writes at certain times every day, from 8 in the morning to noon. No excuses. Never left out. Even if he is sick, even if it is a holiday. Sitting at his desk means writing. He once said, "Etchers set and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work." This is the basic philosophy of time management. Not waiting for inspiration, but routines. The biggest way to save time is to learn to say no. Unnecessary meetings or trivial chats are not tasks that are not advancing your goals. Every yes means cutting some part of your time, so think before every yes. Think about it. Think about it. A sand clock is slowly pouring sand into your hands. Every particle can't be returned once a minute falls. The only question is whether you are spending the minutes in the right place. The next step in mastering time is to conquer the battle of the mind, because discipline breaks not due to outside but broken from inner temptation and fear. The main idea is the battle of three focuses. Freedom from the trap of confusion. Have you ever thought of working with attention for an hour today? Then he saw that time had passed while scrolling through social media. The greatest enemy in the world we live in today is confusion. Sheldon Howe writes in his book Focus, Issue New Superpower. Whoever masters it wins the game of life. Here we will learn how to hold attention, how to escape from the trap of temptation, and how to keep the brain steady in one task. Our brain structure is designed in such a way that it is addicted to new information. Social media, notifications, news all give instant pleasure to the brain. As a result, the brain seeks new stimuli even during important tasks. As a result, we quit working. I lose focus again and again and get frustrated at the end of the day. World-renowned composer Ludwig van Beethoven became an almost complete Bodhi towards the end of his life. Imagine how a musician who cannot hear his own melody still composes one of the greatest tunes in the history of the Ninth Symphony. Beethoven knew that the focus was not on external words, but on inner vision. He stopped the confusion outside and gave his full mind. Take short breaks after each task. Francisco Cirillo, an Italian student, used tomato-shaped timers during his studies. From there, the Pomodoro technique was born. Step 1. Work continuously for 25 minutes. Take a break of 2 or 5 minutes and 15. At the end of 3 or 4 cycles, take a 20-minute break from. This small cycle keeps the brain fresh and keeps the attention for a long time. Temptation is the main cause of loss of attention. The way out of this is to add a task you want to do with something you have to do. Example, just listen to your favorite podcast while exercising in the gym. Just drink coffee while reading a book. Just watch your favorite series while walking on a treadmill. In this way, attention can be increased by exploiting temptation. Environment is very important for attention. Create deep work zones where there will be silence, tidy desks, no phone or social media, and specific time for specific tasks. 19th century legendary inventor Nikola Tesla. He was immersed in solving each problem for hours and days. He didn't take any notes. He designed the whole machine in his mind. Tesla's secret was that he trained his attention. Suddenly, a small flashlight lit up. The more focused the light, the farther away the darkness. So is your attention. The more focused confusion, the farther away. Want the month of March? I select the month of Mars. I will. I start printing. I print, and the techniques a little bit. Valleys intervene on the field with this list of interventions in fact. So, as a result, this list of interventions is associated with 2, our field activity monitoring sheet. And therefore, the technicians will be able to intervene in a rather rapid manner with these elements, in fact. So that was for the print file list part, in fact. And lastly, we have another activity report sheet that I presented to you earlier, which allows us to complete the preventive maintenance activity report that they have done. It is thanks to the data in our balance sheet activity of Now Preventive that we will have closed our input form according to the data of our work order, in fact. So in relation to the data that are on the follow-up file that we will have to record here, the different comments, and so on. So I introduced you to the application. The online application available there is a download link below. There is a tutorial and a multilingual manual, which are available eventually, so you can easily get to grips with the application and use it to quite efficiently without any problems. So there is a next part, a next file, which will be realized, thus a complement of this one, which will integrate the stock management in fact. So we are working on that. The file will be available in the coming days or weeks. Also, thank you again for watching this tutorial, and great day to you.